September 1939. London was a city bracing itself, a wartime shroud already settling over its ancient stones. In a cramped, smoke-filled office deep within the labyrinthine corridors of MI6, Captain Frank Foley, returned from years of clandestine work in Berlin, reread the telex. Its coded German rattled off a familiar name, one that had haunted his reports for years. Reinhard Heydrich. The document detailed the brutal pacification of Poland. Foley had seen the rise of the Gestapo, watched as Heydrich's power over the RSHA grew like a cancerous shadow, but the sheer methodical savagery described now, the mass arrests, the executions of the intelligentsia, it was beyond even his grim expectations. He'd known Heydrich was ruthless, but this was something new, something chillingly precise. He lit another cigarette, the smoke momentarily obscuring the map of Europe tacked to the wall, a map now bleeding red. The official reports from Warsaw, corroborated by intercepted German communications, painted a picture of unbridled terror, directly overseen by Heydrich's directives. What kind of man, Foley wondered, did this? For many in the Allied intelligence services, the initial perception of Reinhard Heydrich was one of disdainful dismissal, an almost contemptuous underestimation. In the mid-1930s, as reports of his machinations within the burgeoning Nazi state trickled out, he was often categorized as merely a zealous functionary, a particularly brutal chief of police to an increasingly thuggish regime. British Foreign Office dispatches, according to later declassified documents, frequently bundled him with other Gestapo and SS figures, noting his ambition but failing to grasp the nascent systematic scale of his cruelty. Allied newspapers focused on the bombastic theatrics of Hitler, Goering, and Goebbels, paid Heydrich little attention, seeing him as a shadowy enforcer rather than an architect of terror. He was, to them, simply another cog in a well-oiled machine of oppression, his work deemed despicable but predictable within the Nazi framework. The true depth of his calculated depravity remained veiled, dismissed as mere German efficiency turned ugly. But the quiet reports from within Germany, piecing together his role in the Night of the Long Knives and the orchestration of Kristallnacht, suggested a mind far more dangerous than a simple thug. The invasion of Poland in September 1939, however, began to peel back that veil, replacing underestimation with a chilling confusion. As the Wehrmacht swept eastward, a different kind of horror followed in its wake. The Einsatzgruppen, special action groups operating under Heydrich's direct command. According to intercepted messages and desperate reports from the Polish government in exile, these units were systematically executing academics, priests, doctors, and, most disturbingly, Jews. The reports speak of actions bordering on the unthinkable. A British intelligence summary from October 1939 noted, struggling to categorize the events. These weren't random acts of wartime brutality. These were premeditated, organized mass murders aimed at decapitating Polish society and eradicating entire groups of people. Allied analysts found themselves grappling with the sheer scale and cold precision. General George S. Patton, observing early intelligence, might have commented on the German army's fighting prowess, but the operations of Heydrich's men, detailed in special operational reports arriving in London, revealed a new dimension of warfare, one waged not just against soldiers, but against a nation's very soul. Who was this man, Heydrich, who could direct such calculated barbarity with such chilling efficiency? As the war progressed and Germany turned its gaze east with Operation Barbarossa in 1941, confusion mutated into a gnawing fear, tinged with a grudging, horrified awe at Heydrich's sheer ruthlessness. The Einsatzgruppen, unleashed across the vast plains of the Soviet Union, executed millions. Allied intelligence, bolstered by decoded intercepts and desperate pleas from occupied territories, tracked Heydrich's direct orders, his relentless pursuit of racial cleansing, and the systematic elimination of undesirables. The sheer volume of death, meticulously documented in German reports often later captured by the Red Army, defied comprehension. Heydrich wasn't merely overseeing executions. He was pioneering a new form of industrial slaughter. American intelligence summaries, reviewing early reports on mass killings at places like Babi Yar, struggled with the vocabulary to describe it, eventually settling on terms like unparalleled barbarity and organized extermination. This was not just a brutal dictator, but an administrative genius of evil, and Allied leaders began to grasp the depth of his personal malevolence. Then came the spring of 1942 and Heydrich's appointment as Reich Protector of Bohemia and Moravia. His arrival in Prague was not just a change of guard, it was a declaration of war on an entire population. Known thereafter as the Butcher of Prague by Allied media, Heydrich immediately launched a campaign of terror designed to crush Czech resistance and pacify the region. Daily reports from underground networks, meticulously compiled by the Czech government in exile in London and forwarded to the British Foreign Office, detailed arbitrary arrests, swift trials, and public executions. Thousands were rounded up, interrogated, and often killed. Heydrich's methods were precise, swift, and utterly unforgiving, creating a climate of fear that permeated every corner of Czech society. He was not just following orders. He was exceeding them, perfecting the art of state-sponsored terror. The ruthlessness was so profound, so absolute, that it generated a desperate resolve among the Allies to strike back, to somehow break his iron grip. The Allied perception of Heydrich's role shifted dramatically. He was, no longer just a cruel administrator. He was recognized as the driving force behind the most extreme policies of the Third Reich. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, receiving a summary of Heydrich's actions in Prague, reportedly expressed utter revulsion. This man, the Foreign Office files confirm, is truly the architect of Nazi horror. The Wannsee Conference in January 1942, though its full implications would only be understood much later, cemented Heydrich's place in Allied intelligence as the central figure behind the final solution. His methodical planning, his chilling calm in orchestrating the extermination of an entire people, elevated him beyond a mere henchman. He was the cold, calculating intelligence at the heart of the Nazi darkness, the man who, according to intelligence estimates, spent his days not merely managing but innovating new forms of systemic, industrial death. This newfound understanding of Heydrich's unparalleled cruelty galvanized resistance efforts. The meticulous reports detailing his reign of terror in Prague, especially those highlighting his direct involvement in every stage of the crackdown, led to one of the most daring operations of the war. Operation Anthropoid, a mission conceived and executed by Czech operatives trained by the British Special Operations Executive, was a direct response to this widespread fear and revulsion. The mission's planners, aware of the immense risk and potential reprisals, targeted Heydrich precisely because of his unique and devastating effectiveness. He was, as numerous internal SOE documents attested, a symbol of utter evil, whose removal might, even momentarily, break the spell of terror he cast. May 27, 1942. The news of the assassination attempt on Heydrich in Prague sent shockwaves across Europe, reaching Allied intelligence rooms almost instantly. Frank Foley, still tracking Heydrich's movements, heard the news with a grim satisfaction. He knew the cost would be immense. The immediate aftermath confirmed their fears and, tragically, Heydrich's enduring legacy of terror. The German reprisal for his death was swift and horrific. The complete annihilation of the village of Lidice, where every man was shot, every woman and child deported to concentration camps, served as a stark, brutal testament to the depths of Heydrich's systematic cruelty, even in death. Allied broadcasts immediately condemned the massacre, using Lidice as a potent symbol of Nazi barbarism. The sheer scale of the retribution, orchestrated by Heydrich's successors, but echoing his methods, left no doubt in Allied minds about the kind of evil he truly represented. Reinhard Heydrich's brief, brutal career, meticulously documented through intercepted communications, eyewitness accounts, and the chilling directives he personally issued, transformed the Allied perception of their enemy. From a dismissed thug, he evolved into an object of confusion, then fear, and finally a horrified awe at his capacity for evil. He was not merely a cog, but the engine of the most barbaric aspects of the Nazi regime, the architect of policies that plunged humanity into its darkest abyss. The intelligence files, diplomatic cables, and resistance reports gathered by Allied forces painted an undeniable portrait. Heydrich, the cold assassin, Hitler's most evil man, whose relentless pursuit of terror defined a new, chilling dimension of human depravity. But the shadow he cast and the system he built would tragically live on, a testament to the dark power of one man's will, ensuring that the full horror of his vision would continue to unfold long after his demise.